Hey everybody, I want to suggest a really good book I read years and years ago, and also a method that's inside of the book that will help determine if you are in a healthy relationship or not, or if your adult sons and daughters decide to return after an estrangement, what model should be used in order to gauge if it's going to be safe or not. So, a book I read years ago by John Van Epp, it was How to Avoid Marrying a Jerk. One of my absolute favorite books in the whole world, and it just talks about how to have safe relationships and what method or what attachment model you should abide by. So, the relationship attachment model, known as R.A.M, is this right here, and I'll just read it. Trust, know, rely, commit, and touch. So I might have said those out of line, but we'll talk about it each one. So in order for you to have a healthy relationship, whether it is intimate or other, you have to know, trust, rely, commit, and touch. And all of those have to be across the board on the same playing field in order to know if someone is trustworthy or not prior to you opening your door to them, and if it's intimate before you allow them into your bedroom. And the best way I can describe this, I think it's in this book, is let's say you own a home and you have a fence around your yard, and you recently moved in, and you're kind of getting to know your neighbors. And so when you're outside in your front yard and you're gardening, you'll see people that walk past on the sidewalk. And so if it's a neighbor, they're coming to say hi, maybe they're welcoming you into the neighborhood, and you'll say hi to people and you'll say, hey, how's it going? And right off the bat, your spidey senses go off whether you feel you can trust that person or not, or if it's someone you would like to get to know further, someone you feel comfortable with. And so a little while goes by, and then the same neighbor comes over and she says, oh, how's it going? And you have a garden, and you open up your front gate and you say, come on in and see my flowers. And so you welcome her in and you walk around, and then she says to you, yeah, I'd like you to see my rose bushes. And so you head over and you become established. And then let's just say you're out and you need a bag of dirt, and your neighbor notices and she says, oh, I have a bag of dirt, would you like it? And you say, sure. And so she brings over that bag of dirt, and she's good to her word, and then all of a sudden you realize, oh, she's someone I'd like to invite on my front porch for some tea. And so the two of you sit down and you realize you have things in common, and you start to establish a certain kind of trust. And so then after a little while you say, well, come on in and see my, come on in for a cup of coffee. And over time you build up that trust. And eventually you consider that person a friend, you love them, and you give them a hug. Why? Because you got to know them. You knew you could trust them. You could rely on them because they were good for their word. They were good in their commitments regarding when they were going to show up. If they say, I'd like to come over Tuesday at 2, swing by and say hi, they were good for their word. And then you felt a kinship, so you gave them a hug. And so the relationship attachment model means that everything is cohesive and across the board. Now, when it's off kilter in intimate relationships, the last one, when you have gotten to know someone and there's a lot of touching, but there's not a lot of knowing and trusting, and they're really not good for their word, and they don't keep their commitments, and it's more of a physical relationship than an intimate relationship, or emotional and mental, that's when you realize that it is not going to be a healthy type of situation. So the book is excellent. I read it years ago and I absolutely loved it. I suggest you read it, especially if you have estranged adult children and you want to know if you should allow them back into your home. Take your time and get to know them again and see if you even have things in common. I hope this helps. Get the book. It's an amazing read. And I'll be back.